A pain in the, and you didn't say it. Well done.
You beat it out.
Okay, you know when you get to your work, guys, in the morning, right? And you kind of sit down and you get to your desk and you open the paper and you look around and you scratch your arse for a while and you go, oh, maybe I'll have a cup of coffee, and you do all that before you actually start. Well, this is me starting mine, okay? So Louise, don't worry, we'll get there, okay? I know you're panicking now because it's not what you're used to.
Also, because I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth any single time you open it.
No, you don't, and that's the way it needs to be.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Question, Peter, is to you.
Do I what?
That's a very
You know
good
what's going to come out of your mouth? I suffer from that
haven't the
sometimes.
faintest fucking idea, Jonathan. It just
There we go.
appears out of
Here we
nowhere.
go. Rants from
Right.
Peter.
So, so I suppose the thing is, Jonathan, are you the only newbie so far here today? I'm just looking through the thing here. You're the only first timer so far.
All right, you mean
Right
victim.
in. Victim, yes. You're the first
I
victim.
knew you could give as good as you get, Jonathan.
Well, that's great. Okay, so the one piece of advice I will give to you is keep up, okay? Because we don't know what's going to happen, all right? There's no going to the loo. There's no any of that, right? If you need to go to the loo, you just suck it up and away you go, all right? So, Louise, enough with that face, okay?
I'm being quiet. I'm drinking my coffee. It's only coffee.
Oh, and Flavor has the builders in. That's an amazing one. Where did you find a builder that actually turned up? Oh, he's on quiet. He's on quiet.
It's a lot. It's a lot of noise.
Okay. All right. Now, how many have we got in? Just having a look. It's 13 in. There were 19 registered. Of that 19, one person pulled out with an hour to go, and I can't remember who it was. It just dropped from 19 to 18. Their loss. I see we have a Roisin. Hello, Roisin. Can you hear us, Roisin? Hello?
She might be scared to speak to us.
I don't blame her. I don't blame her. Anyway.
Maybe she got turned off with your language, Peter.
Yeah, I'd say the last 5 minutes probably hasn't kind of raised her comfort level. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's a question for all of you. If you can't handle 5 minutes of me, how are you going to handle COVID?
I think it's easier to handle COVID.
Should have seen that coming.
You should. I should have. Really.
Did,
But anyway. Anyway. Okay, so I'm just having a look here. Let's have got me fuel here.
Jeez, that's a nice fancy coffee.
Oh, Jesus, none of your muck in this house.
Look at that now. I know. I don't need to say it. Standard black coffee.
Oh, God, no. Oh, no.
All I have is dry bread and some water for dipping.
Okay.
Or fancy coffee.
You win that race.
I get this from the coaches all the time. You and your fancy towny attitude.
No, I'd say Rob has a Zoom call with the VC after this, and he doesn't want to be seen to be wasting the money.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh, stop. Okay, right.
What's the topic this week, Peter?
The topic this week is all the ingredients you're ever going to need to find and attract new and eager customers.
Yes, please.
Okay. Hands up if you don't want that, guys. Okay, no hands went up, so that's good. That's a good start, isn't it? I see Elizabeth has arrived. Okay, so we're now up to 14 out of the 18 that have registered. Hello, Elizabeth. Happy Friday. Nice to see you.
Oh, is there audio?
It really is. I know we crack this joke all the time, but it's got to be the quote of 2020, hasn't it? You're on mute!
Oh, it is. 100%.
It's the one thing we will remember from this year and next year and the year after that.
Don't say that.
Yeah, we won't forget 2020 in a hurry, that's for sure.
We certainly will when it's this time in 21. I love being the harbinger of doom.
Yeah, I really get off on it too. It's great.
Yeah.
Suck the life out of people's soul. Oh, I love it.
But what do I say to you from the very start, guys? If we can actually understand what's coming, we can actually make an effort to handle it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's what people won't accept. God, I made that very strong at the top.
Excellent. Stronger the better, isn't it?
Stronger the better. Absolutely. I should have put a bit of whiskey. I should have taken the lead.
Depends on what
Yeah, put a bit of
alcohol's at the
whiskey in
bottom
it.
there, Peter.
Exactly.
Sorry?
It depends on what alcohol's at the bottom of that.
Well, look, you see, I've just made it up at the same now. No, there's no alcohol in it. I forgot that you were going to be here. Look at her with her cup of gin.
It's completely, it's the only way to get through you.
Well, there you go. There you go. Anyhow, all right. So I need to keep an eye. Let me just check there's no one else in the waiting room. And we'll start getting on with this. Okay. Now, there doesn't seem to be anyone else in the waiting room. That's great. Everybody see me okay?
Yes.
Everybody hear me okay?
Perfect.
Loud and clear.
Okay, super. Right. Now, what I wanted, as I said, we want to talk about the ingredients, right? And what we need to have to hand when it comes to putting together a sales process, all that kind of thing. Now, one of the real things that got my attention, or sorry, sent me down this road a couple of years ago was, has anybody ever watched you might see some similarities in the way he speaks, Gordon Ramsay. Everybody familiar with Gordon Ramsay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so have you ever seen that program he does called Kitchen Nightmares USA?
It's based a bit on Pitch Perfect.
Sorry?
It's based a bit on Pitch Perfect.
It is based on Pitch Perfect, it is.
But with less cursing.
With less cursing, yeah.
I know, who would have thought? Gordon Ramsay with less cursing. Anyway, the point is, are you familiar with the guys, yeah?
Yeah.
Can anybody remember the common things that happen when you see a number of them? There's always a common thread, isn't there?
They're a mess and he sorts them out.
He goes in and sorts them out, yes. But what are the common problems they have? The three most common problems.
The fridge. The fridge is always a mess.
The fridge is always a mess, yes. What else?
Too much stuff on the menu.
Too much stuff on the menu. That's right.
The managers don't know about the customers. They don't know the customer need.
Yeah, they don't listen to. They don't
know the customer needs.
feedback.
That's a huge one. Yeah.
Frozen food.
Frozen food. Yeah. And the frozen food goes back to Rob's point of too much stuff on the menu. Okay. And what's the other big one? There's one more big one.
Don't want to listen.
They don't want to listen. Isn't that always the common theme? And I've been watching it for years, and there was a guy, for the first time I saw a guy admit it there a couple of weeks ago on one of the reruns. I mean, the great thing about the COVID is that we have reruns of everything. You get to see everything you liked all over again. But the one thing was, he said, the place was a total mess. And Gordon said, why didn't you reach out before now for help? And he said, because asking for help is a sign of weakness. Okay. In actual fact, guys, asking for help and knowing your weaknesses, what's that the greatest sign of? Strength. Absolutely. Okay. And it tied in as well. Was anybody here the week I was talking about a couple of years ago? I got in a room with Richard Branson for a couple of hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
And does anybody remember what I said the big thing was? They was asked a question, and that was, what makes you so successful compared to everybody else? And he put his hand up and he says, I am catastrophically dyslexic.
Yeah, dyslexic, yeah.
And they said, why does that mean you can be successful? He said, because I learned at a very early age, if I get involved in any of my companies on a day-to-day basis, I'll fuck them up. Now, imagine the strength it took for a man like that to admit his weaknesses. But what did it make him do? He got all the right people around him, and he understood his job. His job is to be the cheerleader for the Virgin Group. Isn't that right? And he lets everybody else use their strengths to bring it along. Okay? So in exactly the same way, with the same thinking of that, with the thinking we have from Gordon Ramsay, right? What is Rob, you mentioned there's always too much stuff on the menu. What is the way they solve that?
To get rid of the entire menu and come in with something that's fairly simple and straightforward.
Yeah, and it's usually 3 starters, 5 main courses, and about 3 desserts. Isn't that right? Or something similar to that, right? Why? Because number one, you don't need to have as many ingredients to be able to do it fresh if you've got a much smaller amount of stuff on the menu. Secondly, you can actually, if you're following a theme, say for example, Italian or whatever it is, you can spread some of those ingredients across a number of the recipes so that you can have the fresh stuff in stock all the time so that you can do it properly. You with me?
Yes.
So it's simplification. And in exactly the same way, what I've discovered is that the recipe for success for a business is actually or for a sales pitch or whatever it is actually almost no different in theory for the recipe for a restaurant. You with me? Now, Stephanie said the other thing is the kitchen is always what? A mess, and the fridge, and they open it up and everything falls out and it's all moldy stuff at the back and all that kind of stuff. Aren't we? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Delicious.
And if we actually think back, who remembers being a teenager?
Too long ago.
What's the big thing about your teenage bedroom?
Probably Stephanie, I'd say. Only.
Hi, guys. You're as old as you feel.
You're as old as you feel. That's it. But here's the thing. You remember a teenager's bedroom. Yeah, remember what it was like? And what do? You just open the door and throw everything in, right? And when it comes to trying to find stuff in a teenager's bedroom, how easy is it?
It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. And do you think it was any different when they were to try and go into those nightmare fridges to find the stuff that they needed so that they could do it accurately and quickly?
No.
No. But this is the way we are. This is the way, think about it, even your computer, when you hit save on your computer, it goes to your hard drive, it opens the door and it just throws it in. And after a while, it looks, even the inside of your computer looks like the inside of a teenager's bedroom. You know, we've all done it. We've all done it, had been in a situation where you throw the stuff in, it keeps throwing it, and eventually your computer completely slows down, doesn't it? And what do? You hit the thing called defragmentation. Is everybody familiar with that one? And what does it do? It goes into the teenager's bedroom and it sorts everything out and it puts it all on the shelves so the computer can find it easily. And in exactly the same way, if we know our ingredients for our sales pitches, if we know what matters to people, what difference would it make if we could find it quickly? How many times have you been in a pitch, you've been on a Zoom call and somebody says, oh, what about this? And you're left there with egg on your face going, oh, I'll have to come back to you on that. Because you don't have the right bits to hand. What does that do for you?
Discredits.
Discredits
What?
you. Discredits you.
It discredits you straight away, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to start thinking in a slightly different way. And I'm going to grab the camera here for a second, right? And this is something I had to learn to do. And it was very difficult, let me tell you. Because in exactly the same way that, you know when you're trying to cook something and you can't find what you need, yeah? We've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And it's and something's burning on the stove because you can't find what you need. So
You find someone to blame. That's the best
And then you have
thing.
to find somebody to blame. Exactly right? Now imagine, see where my stovetop is? Imagine that is your sales area, wherever it is you're presenting. Imagine being able to have every single thing you need to hand like that.
Dream.
Imagine knowing that everything you could possibly need is right there. Look, from the knives to the ingredients to the spoons, right? Everything is there. You with me?
It's Gordon Ramsay.
What?
You're Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, Gordon Ramsay's got nothing on me. Now, but the reason I showed you that wasn't to blow smoke up the arse, right? The reason I wanted to show you that
Hell's
was...
Kitchens.
Are you sure?
Sorry?
Are you sure?
I'm not sure what.
But you weren't blowing smoke up your rear end.
Thank you. I wasn't going to repeat it.
Yeah, I was going to wonder if you're going to say that or not.
The word is arse, guys. Now, the point is, right? How much easier do you think that makes my life?
Loads.
Loads. Now, if you could think of that in the same way when it comes to your sales pitches, when it comes to putting stuff together, if you could have everything really easy, really accessible, and throw away the nonsense and just keep what matters, what difference would that make to you?
Loads.
Loads. Okay? So, And I know what we've done here over the past is we've got other people to pitch, and we've brought in people, and you know, some of you have thrown in a pitch and all that kind of stuff, right? And we've critiqued it and all that, and everybody's learned. How would you like to see a pitch that I've done?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
How would you like to see how I lay out the ingredients and what matters? Would that be of help to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this presentation that I'm going to show you now are all the ingredients as we go. So what I want you to do is, I want you to get a pen and a piece of paper, write down some notes as we go. And at the end of it, we'll discuss. And I want to see what people pick out. I want to see what people notice. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just get this share screen thing going. And remember, before we do that, guys, do you remember what are the most important things? Number one?
Me.
Rob. Rob is the most important person.
Thank you.
And Rob is a member of what?
The audience.
The audience. Number two?
Solution.
Number three?
Urgency.
Number four?
Rob.
Because Rob's in there twice. Okay.
Can't have enough too much, Rob.
Okay. So, okay.
Urgency.
Urgency,
Three.
yeah.
3, yeah.
3, and then 5 is imagination.
Okay, so can everybody see it?
Yes?
Yeah, and am I a little thing like the size of a matchbox over to the side? Hello. Right. So let me just check this thing is working. Yes, it is. So how many of you feel like you're not getting the results you deserve at the moment? How many of you feel that you're spending more time talking about doing work than actually doing work? How many of you feel it's actually quite difficult to make a profit at the moment?
Any money.
Hands up if you'd like to get your message out to more people in a way that attracted their attention and meant that you got more inbound leads today. That's funny, I don't see any hands go up, but anyway, right? So what does it mean? What do we need to start thinking about? Well, what I want you to do is I want you to start thinking about all the things that have changed in the last 6 months. All the things that have happened around the world. Think about the situations your customers are in. Think about their worlds. Think about your own world. How much has it changed? And if yours has changed, how much has your customers changed? And the question I have for you is, what have you done to change with it? What have you done to keep up with the pace? Now, for the last 5 months, since COVID started, who's familiar with the white noise that all started at the end of March on LinkedIn and Facebook? With all the experts that started sending you out videos telling you, I can get you through COVID, I can help you, I can do this. And most of it was what, guys?
Bull.
Bull. You know it, okay? So what I did was I sat back and I didn't do anything, I just observed. Now, one of the things we do know about humans is how we respond to past events shapes our future. What does that mean? We make our decisions based on experience. We make all our future planning is based on what happened if we did a certain thing a certain way before. Well, hands up if you've lived through a pandemic before.
Millennium bug.
Here's the problem. Nobody has lived through a pandemic before. So what I did 6 months ago was I took 2 weeks off completely. And I sat down at the internet at the kitchen table and I researched the history of pandemics for the last 600 years. I looked at the time frames. I looked at how things happen. And you know what? There's a pattern. And they've all been within a whisker of being the same. And that's why I can tell you that pandemics usually take on average 3 years to work their way through. So if we're going to be stuck the way we are for the next 3 years, we need to think about what are we doing and how can we change it and what has made a difference. So in comparison to all that white noise that's out there, I'm here to say to you, never mind the bollocks. I'm here.
Peter.
Now,
Oh, well.
before Louise so rudely interjected,
You rudely.
there's a reason I put that up there. The last time the economy in the British Isles was as bad as it is now was 1977. And that was the year that the Sex Pistols arrived on the scene. This album cover created such a stir that it was banned on the radio, it was banned on the TV, it was banned from being played in discos, it was banned from being played in pubs. And what happened? It went straight in at #1 on the day that it was released. Why? Because it created a stir. Why? Because people were talking about it. Why? Because they weren't afraid to do something that was different. They weren't afraid to stand out. In fact, they made it the be-all and end-all of themselves was to stand out. And in actual fact, that's the reason I've stolen the artwork. That's the reason I've taken it and modernized it for now. And that's the reason I'm putting it in front of you. To grab your attention. Is there anybody there whose attention I haven't got at this point in time? So what does this mean?
They're not listening.
So what does this all mean? Well, we need to start thinking creativity about what we're, or thinking creatively about what we're doing. Think about how we're communicating the changes we're making. Are we even making changes? Do we know what changes need to be made? And here's the biggest tip I'm going to give you guys. Stay away from everybody who tells you they're creative or has creativity written in their mission statement. It's pure proof that they are not. If you have to tell somebody you're creative, you ain't. All right. That should come with your own reputation. So what does it take? Well, you've got to be out there and you've got to be visible. The second most important thing is, I did a study with the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals through March, April, and May. We looked at 20,000 pieces of business across the States that happened in that time frame. And we looked for the one big differentiator, the one thing that really meant people did business. Anybody guess what it was? Do you think it was COVID special offers? Do you think it was free samples? Do you think it was all this stuff that we're seeing online, even still at the moment? Do you think any of that actually was the differentiator? In actual fact, guys, it was very simple. It was credibility. People will pay for what they need in times like this, but they will only pay for it once. They look for credibility, and that's it. If you look like you can give them what it is that they need, they will do it, but they're not going to take a risk. If you're not credible, you're not doing it. But if you're credible, they'll pay full price. So visibility and credibility equals profitability. That's another thing to write down. If you haven't got the first two, you're not going to make the third one. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's involved in it? Well, the first thing is, the first ingredient is perception. What perception do you give out if people went and looked at you online now? Because sometimes perceptions are wrong, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
We all remember that day that appeared on the news, don't we?
Yeah.
I've had people from the States tell me they were stunned by this. So the question is, are you giving out the right perception for what you do to attract your customer in 8 seconds right now? Now, to be able to put out that perception, you need a couple of things. First off, you need to know who they are. Who is your ideal customer? What do they look like? What do they have for breakfast? Because if you don't know who they are and you don't know what they want and you don't know what they're looking for, what kind of perception can you give them? The wrong one is the simple answer. The next thing you need to think about, the next ingredient is, how do you communicate what you do with the right customer at the right time in the right place? If I was to Google any one of you right now, would your communication with me be memorable? Would it mean something to me? Would it connect with me? And would there be an emotional attachment to it? Here's the thing. You know, when I open this up and I ask those 3 questions about, do you feel you're getting the results you deserve? Do you feel you're spending more time talking about making money than making money? Do you feel it's difficult to make a profit? How many of you did that connect with immediately?
Everybody.
Everybody probably.
How much did you get a little lump in your throat and go, I want to do that? So was it? And take my never mind the bollocks thing. Was that memorable? You'll never forget it. The point is, have I
missed that session, Peter.
Have I managed to make those 4 things that you see on the left-hand side of the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have, haven't I? So that's your first 2, is your perception. Number 2 is your communication. Now, if somebody has spotted you, they've read what you do, they like what you do, what's the next thing they do they need to have for credibility? They need to know that you can give them what you promise. So the third thing I talk about is called affirmation. Write it down, affirmation. And understanding what it takes to provide that affirmation to a potential customer. Do you know what your customers are looking for? Do you know what really matters? Now, I know in my speaking business, I'm going to give you an example of this. I know in that business that there are 3 things that matter to a speaker booker. Number 1, they do not want a queue of people at the end of the conference asking for their money back. So what does that mean? What do I need to be? I need to be good at what I do. How many times have you gone to a conference, handed over money, and somebody stood up on the stage and all they did was mumble? It happens all the time, doesn't it? You're sitting there going, good Christ, I can't believe I paid for this shit. Right? And we've all been there. So number 1 is that you are physically able to stand up there and do it. Number 2, how many times have you gone to a lunch or you've gone to a business thing and somebody is billed as the keynote speaker and you can't wait to see them, and they stand up and 90 seconds later you're looking at your phone or you're making your way to the toilet? It's happened to every single one of us. So what's the next thing they need to know? That you can do it and do it in an entertaining or engaging way. And what's the third thing? That people will have something to take away. So the third thing they need to know about is a thing called substance. Now, outside of that, is there anything else a speaker booker could possibly need to know about me? No, everything else is superfluous. Are you with me? So how do you give affirmation to that? What does that say, guys?
Absolutely invaluable from startup to listing on NASDAQ.
Is everybody familiar with what NASDAQ is? So if I can bring a company by showing them how to present and get investors on their side from nothing to listed on the New York Stock Exchange in 2.5 years, does what I say have substance?
Yeah.
Of course it does. Okay. Now, how simple is that? Think about all the, what would you call it? All the testimonials you see when you go on people's websites, and they're like an essay. They're 25 pages long nearly, and they tell everything but tell nothing at the same time. Oh, Noreen was great to work with. She always turned up on time and it was great fun and we all had a hoot. No one cares. You with me? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
They might think it's really good, but it might not be for me, whereas that says it's for everyone.
Yes. So that covers 1. What about that one? What does that cover, guys? Engaging or entertaining, right?
Engaging.
Can there be any doubt that I can be engaging or entertaining?
No.
None, right? And again, like that, look at the person that said it. Does their opinion matter?
It does.
It
Microsoft.
does. Okay. Now, third one. What about that? Does that say I can do it?
Yeah.
I get back to you next Friday.
There you go. Now, the point is, guys, this isn't, again, I don't need smoke blown up my arse here. I want to show you what a difference these have made to me. I want to show you the points that make the biggest differences in here. Have I covered the three things? Yes. Do you know the equivalent to those three for your business? Do you know how to communicate that in a simple form that somebody can read instantly and know that it's true and that you have it? Do those three make me a safe pair of hands? Would you quibble about whether you'd give me money if you wanted an outcome? No, you wouldn't. Now, another couple of things. Anything else stand out to you?
Photographs.
Photographs. What's the thing about the photographs there?
It's
Professional.
It's a real person that you put the face to the words.
rather than just words on a page, which are much less effective.
Yeah.
And the signature.
Yeah.
And here's the thing.
The signature endorses the whole lot.
Yeah. Is the face bigger or smaller than the wording?
Bigger.
So what impression does that give? What perspective does that give? You with me?
Satisfaction.
Yes. And a big smile, which means he's happy with it, right? These are the things that make the difference, right? Now, there's one person, no, there's more than one, who's registered for here today. I'm not going to name any names, but I went on their website yesterday, and there were great big long testimonials with the name MD Technology Company, CEO Bus Company, whatever it was. What happens when we read stuff with no name or no photograph on it?
It's not
What
real.
happens in your subconscious?
It's fake.
You immediately go, they've just pulled that out of their arse.
Yeah.
Right? So this is what I'm saying. Does that make that person a safe pair of hands? No.
No.
Does something like this make you a safe pair of hands? Yes. So do you see now what I'm saying about the affirmation? Okay? Now your fourth part, and possibly your most important, is how do you take the 3 bits? What are the 3 bits, right? You put them all together into what? What do you do with them when you have them? You have to do a presentation. So do you know how to make a presentation that's going to grab people by the scruff of the neck? Do you have a presentation that you can go in with and know that if you pull this presentation off, you are 100% sure of getting the work? And that nobody else is going to be considered once you come back out that door? Have you got that ability? Have you got that confidence? And by the way, the confidence just doesn't come from the fact that you know what you're doing. It also comes from knowing that what you put in front of people is going to blow them away, and it's a level above everybody else. Here's the thing, guys. Are those slides the same as every set of slides you've ever seen in a presentation?
No.
Or are they a step above, or 2 steps above, or 3 steps above?
Or 10.
There are 10 notches, yeah. There are 10 notches.
So what do you think that says to a client when I walk in that room and show them this?
Tell me about your features.
It's what?
Tell me about your features.
Here's the thing. It sets me apart 10 notches above everybody else. Who is now considered? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would that mean if we could show you how to do that? What would it mean? You know when you go into a presentation and they've 4 or 5 pages laid out in the thing and they go, we've got 4 quotes. What's your best price? And you're going, oh, fuck. Right? We've all been there. Well, what would it mean that at the end of your presentation and they started to talk about price, they just ripped up the other 4 and threw them in the bin? I said, they no longer matter. They're not in your price. They're not in your bracket. Because what that does is, that is showing them that they are getting the best quality at the highest level before we even turn up. Does that make sense? Which is back to, you know, the image that you're giving. You with me?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. When does, I've spoken about this before, so for the new people, when does negotiation start? When you give them your price?
First engagement.
It starts in the first 3 seconds. Okay? If you're giving them death by PowerPoint in the first 3 seconds, what's going to happen when it gets to negotiation?
Mind is made up.
Already made up. Are you with me? Yeah? This all makes sense?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
anybody there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's
Right.
take a note.
So, here's the thing. What would it mean to you if I could show you how to do all of those things so that when you go in and you make your presentation, you're the only one that they want to do business with? What would that mean to you?
The world.
What could that physically, mentally, and fiscally be worth to you over the next 12 months?
Bread and butter on the table.
Yeah.
So in the last 6 months, as I said, I've sat down, I've looked at everything, I've observed everything, I've studied human behavior, and I've put together a program that is the single most likely program in the world today to get you from where you are now to where you want to be in the next 6 months. And I call it Rip It Up. It's where we take everything we know, everything we think we know, we rip it up and we start again for now, for COVID, not rehashing old shit and putting the name COVID on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is there anybody here that wouldn't want to know this?
No.
Is there anybody here that wouldn't massively benefit from this? So how does it work? Actually, I've just put that in. That's just, it's one of your gang. I put this in for a reason, by the way. Do you remember I showed that and I showed the different things in the tree for me? What was the problem? They were all big corporations. What happened when you saw them? Yeah, you were impressed by them, but you went in your subconscious said, he's not for us. We're all sole traders. We're all small business owners. He's not the right one for us. So, Eva gave me one. Now, am I for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, this is another point I want to make, right? When we are looking for, we need to decide who is the customer that we are presenting to on the day. Where do they see themselves? Does everything you present to them actually relate to them? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So does it relate? Okay. And in the same way, if I was going out looking for work for Microsoft again, would it suit Microsoft to put up something from Evan?
No.
No. So this is what I want to say to you. One size does not fit all. Okay? We have our ingredients. We know what those ingredients are, but we do have to tweak them depending on who's at the dinner party. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay? So, sorry, that was there. I'd forgotten I put that in. Do forgive me. So it's always that. So if you're going out, you're looking for work from PwC in the morning or Microsoft or whatever, have you got the equivalent one of those for them? Because if you haven't, forget it. Okay?
Yep.
One of the things I see out there a lot, by the way, I'm going to throw this in for the crack, is posturing. How many times have you actually paid money to somebody in the last couple of years and got rubbish in return? But they talk the talk very well before you handed over the money. How many times has that happened to you?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Loads of
A
times.
few times, yeah.
Yeah. How many of you could afford for that to happen again?
No.
Especially in the current climate. Right? So what I want you to think about is, are we all familiar with the game of rugby? Do we all know who the All Blacks are?
Yep.
Right? Now, one of their things is they do the haka to intimidate the opposition before they kick off, don't they? And it works. Why does it work? Because they've done all the stuff in the background, the 10,000 hours training, and they have the tactics and they have all the bits to back it up. Now imagine Italy, who to the best of my memory, I may be proved wrong, but to the best of my memory, have never won a Six Nations game. Imagine if they turned up in the Aviva and started doing the hack. What would you think?
No. Just
Right? Imagine the Italian man, I'm not sure if it's still Conor O'Shea, but imagine he turned up and said, guys, I've sorted it out, I've got it, we don't need to train anymore, we're just going to learn the haka. What do you think would happen?
Laugh.
laughed at.
You'd be laughed at. So if you're going in to see the big players and you haven't got the backup, are you the equivalent of Italy doing the haka?
Not good.
Okay, so I'm not saying that we can't get there, but I'm saying we have to have the right tools in the bag, the right ingredients to know where we're going. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so how does it work? As I said, number one, the perception. Number two, the communication. Number three, the affirmation. And number four, the presentation. Do you think you're going to get through COVID without those four things?
No.
No.
And as a last thing, here's four of the companies I've done it for recently. If I can do it for them, can I do it for you?
I don't know, I'm very stupid.
Now, here's the thing. That was an example of a presentation I've done. We haven't even talked about money at this point. How many are on now? 17. How many of the 17 of you want to know more? Pretty much all of you, right?
Doesn't.
So the point I want to make is, have you guys, when was the last time you did a presentation that had the guts of 100% chance of success? When did you put something as different or as put together or as professional looking as that in front of a client? Now, I'm not doing this to give you a kick in the arse to make you feel bad. The point is, we are professionals. We do stuff to be paid. We do stuff for a living. Do you think it's acceptable to put something in front of somebody that you're going to ask money from if you've given them something that looks amateur?
Nope.
The other side of it too, Peter, is speaking personally. I was just talking to Joanne earlier. I got about 500 no's in Elba Valley so far.
Yeah.
It would be great if we could get rid of a bunch of those. You know, I learned my craft the hard way, but it took about 500 no's to get down the delivery that I did.
What if we could have got that down to 10 before you got your yes?
And not only that, but every one of those no's came at an expense because you had to go to get the no.
Yeah.
Not just it's a no, but it's expensive. No's are very, very, very expensive.
Yeah. So look, what I want you to do is just think about something in a different way. Think about what it is that you're going to do. Think about how you're putting stuff together. That set of slides, for example, anybody guess what they cost me to get done professionally? Sorry?
Tiddly squat, I don't know.
That set of slides you've just seen through cost me €1,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, what do you think that's helped me get back?
Freehold.
With it or more.
10.
Yeah.
Right? That's the point I want to make, right? Because here's the thing, when you go out and you talk to a new client for the first time, what are you asking them to do? Invest in you. What right have any of us got to ask somebody to invest in us if we haven't invested in ourselves? How do you come across?
Amateurish.
Okay? And here's the thing. If I could do all of that for you, if I could show you how to put all that together, what do you think that would be worth to you?
Yeah, you put your business on steroids.
What do you think that costs? And what if I just to say to you, I can give you that for 535 per person?
Bargain.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good bargain.
Is that a COVID special offer, Peter?
And there is no bargain.
I was just going to say, is that cash or is there a VAT on that?
And how can I do that for that price? Because I told you all 2 weeks ago what my hourly rate is for one-to-ones. Because if I have 10 or 15 people on it at a time, I can do that for that price.
Sounds good.
Right? That's how you justify it. That's how you make it work, right? Anyway, the point is, I'm not here to do the sell. I was here to show you. Look what that did. Look at what presenting something properly. Look at what putting it together properly. Look at having practiced it so there was no mms. How many times did I go during that?
Zero.
Now, how do you think I was able to do that? Because I wasn't reading anything off a slide, was I?
Put in the work.
Because I put in the practice. That didn't come from my conscious brain. Everything I said there came from my subconscious brain, came from my soul. And what I was able to do,
You're
because
speaking
I
from
was
your heart, Peter. Yeah.
Because it was coming from here and I didn't need to consciously think about it. I could actually watch every one of your reactions and know when to say the next bit and when to bring in the next bit without trying to remember what I was going to say. That's how it's like to do it properly. That's what it's like to do it professionally. And that's what it's like to walk into a room with 17 people in it and have almost every single person in the 17 say, I want it. What would that mean to you? What would that mean to your future?
Yeah. There are skills comedians use as well, Peter, what you're describing there. You know, when they gauge the audience and they read the reaction, and because your stuff is so well prepared in advance, and then you're speaking from the heart, you have the skills to then gauge when you can, you know, bring in your killer questions and those questions that are opening up the minds.
So do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just the practice. You also need to know what you need to practice. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll go back to that just for the crack. I am starting one of those courses next week. If anybody would like to know more and get on that and get out there and start making a difference right now, send me an email after this gig. You know where to find me, on Slack, and we'll talk about it. Okay? Now, after that, that's it, done. No more sales pitch. What I want to do is I want you guys to now, remember I asked you to do some things at the start, and they were what?
Notice.
What stuck out? What did you notice? What was it? And I'll explain to you how all of those things came about. Okay? So anybody want to start with something that jumped out at them?
Yeah, I started to drift at one point and you brought me back in with you. Oh my God, it's all about me. The word you did pull me back in.
Okay.
And oh my God, is there going to be a question? Is Peter going to catch me or catch us out? I need to pay attention now. But I had just started to drift a little bit and then right back in again.
Yeah.
Okay, relevant. Very relevant.
Yeah. How long was that? I don't know, half an hour, roughly? Did anybody Or start looking out the window?
No.
No.
Oh,
Would you kill us
Okay.
if we said yes?
It's only you that should say that, so it doesn't matter.
I said us. I didn't say me.
Anyway, the point is,
Peter,
yeah.
I was just going to say that I was interested when you wanted us to acknowledge how difficult it was out there, because there's not one person that could say that it's not difficult at the moment. So I think that made it very relatable to acknowledge that it is hard and that we're all finding it hard. So, you know, that piqued up my attention.
There's only one industry in the world right now that is flying, and that is people who sell laptops and mouses or mice or whatever you call them. Right? They're flying. But someday that door is going to crash closed as well, because people only need one laptop, right? But yeah, you're right. It is difficult for everybody. And it's just about making it that bit easier for you to stand out. Because here's the thing. We talked about this a long time ago. Every week another business is closing down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. The EU reckon that by the time COVID is, or certainly by the time we get through Christmas and into the new year, 40% of the businesses across the Eurozone that were still going at the start of COVID will be gone. That's a colossal amount of business. But that's a colossal amount of customers. What would it mean to you if 40% of your customers right now disappeared? How many of you got, look, I'm only talking, this is something we're all part of, right? How many of you either were in a job in January this year and lost it because of COVID and went self-employed, or moved into another industry, right? Or decided gone, right?
Yep.
And how many people do you know that have gone out and they've become consultants in some way, shape or form, or dipping their toe in self-employment?
Yep.
So for every bit of work that gets advertised or put out there to tender or whatever it is, as we go, there's going to be less of it because companies are closing down. And there's going to be more people chasing it because they've lost their jobs. So how far ahead on the steps in the sprint do you need to be if you're going to get through the next couple of years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't just think of today, you have to think of like 6 months' time, 1 year's time, not just today, tomorrow. Like plan for the 6 months game.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to be very honest with you. If somebody got up tomorrow and said, it's all over, it's gone, we can't find it, it's disappeared into thin air, COVID no longer exists. Listen, I will be the happiest. I'll be the very first one to invite every one of you around here for a glass of champagne.
And a COVID hug.
And a big flip. I tell you
A
what.
real hug.
Never mind hugs. As soon as this is over, I'm licking everybody's face. Right? But you see what I'm saying? I'd be the happiest person in the world if it was all over tomorrow.
We'll hold you to the glass of champagne at the end there when it's all over.
Excellent idea, Larry.
I would be more than delighted, right? But I have to be realistic, guys. Okay? And I have to help you guys through as many things as possible.
Well, Peter, it's not even a case of it being over. It's the change that it has caused is not going back.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah, the damage is already done.
It's accelerated change.
It's already there.
Yeah, it's accelerated 5 years of change in 3 or 4 months, and that's not going back.
And well, some of it will. Guys, look, in the end of the day, we are herd animals. There's nothing can take that away from us. We are a herd animal. We like to be around other people. We do what other people do. It makes us feel safe.
But from a business perspective, I think there are permanent changes.
There are permanent changes, yeah. Look at what we're doing right now. Look at the fact that we're all in each other's homes right now without having to go to the bus stop. How amazing is that? It's brilliant. Now, that's going to continue for a long time. But how many of you are actually, it's one thing to watch me do it. How many of you, if I said, right, stand up now and do half an hour and make me give you money, how many of you would be comfortable to stand up and do it into a camera? Most of you probably weren't even confident enough to do it. Never mind doing it on a camera, right?
What are you going to do, Joanne? Now, Norrin, you might have to teach me how to dance.
Well.
But anyway, you see what I'm saying, right? So these things are all happening. It's all changing. We just need to be ready for it in as much as we can. You with me?
Yeah.
Yeah? But anyway, so was there anything else that stood out? Apart from my engagement, was there anything else that really stood out?
Yeah, the big thing that stood out was the message that you're going to have a load of work to do regardless. Some of it can be profitable if you do the right things, or all of it can be non-profitable.
Yeah, there is that. Right. But how much
the work in now, you do this work, you get this down right, and then every step you take makes you money. But if you don't, then you're still going to have to go out and do all the work, meet all the clients, do all the things, but just gather up all the no's, like I did in the earlier days.
Yeah. No, dead right, Rob. Dead right.
And no's are expensive.
Yeah. Anything else?
Passion
Somebody mentioned the word image there, or images or something.
The images. Passion and confidence in your delivery.
Yeah, it's an emotional engagement. It's not a sort of a rational list of skills and experience. It's around that sort of emotional connection.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's all emotional. Yeah. But I suppose the one thing that really stands up was the theme. What did I call it?
Rip it up.
Rip it up.
And I didn't tell you the words "rip it up" till the second last slide.
That's right.
What was the one thing that was on every single page? Right down the middle.
That line.
Yeah.
Tear from the album cover, yeah.
It was a rip. And I even put it into the album. That's not on the original album cover, right? So it's about having that theme so that everything looks connected. How often have you gone and you've seen a presentation and the next slide comes up and you go, where the fuck did that come from? It doesn't seem to fit. Never mind in its look, but even the words that are on it or whatever, right? The other thing that's interesting is, and I know we've talked about this before, but I've added them up.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on mute, sorry.
Is it?
Oh, sorry. Lisa's in the meeting.
Sorry. Sorry.
But here's another thing. I counted up the words that are in that presentation, then divided it by the amount of slides. Can anybody guess what the average words per slide are?
Oh, 12. I think it's 12 or 13.
Yeah, 14 or 15 probably. Yeah.
I had that as a note there, yeah.
3 to 4.
3 to 4, yeah.
3.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, and some of them you only had one word.
Does that include Eva's
Some of
line?
them no words at all.
Yeah, only one word, yeah.
Right. So this is what I want to say. It's not reading it, right? So there's a theme to it. What about the quality of the pictures that were on them?
A very high quality. Yeah.
Very sharp.
How often do you see that?
Rarely.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. Right. But what again? Back to the perception from moment one. What was the perception like?
Professional.
Yeah.
Quality.
Okay. So this is it. So would people be confident to say yes? There's money here for that. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. And how can we do that for you? How can you get people to go, yes, yes, I want to give you money right now because I can see the outcome. I can see what it is, right? Could everybody see an outcome as we went along as well? Everything was laid out as an outcome. When I got to the affirmation, I didn't go, what would it mean if you could do really, really, really good testimonials? And leave it at that. How often do you see people that do that? I'll show you how to do really good testimonials. Really? How do you do it? Oh, you have to pay me first. I didn't do that. What did I do? I proved. In every step, I proved it. Do you do that? Right? One of the big conversations that I've had over the last while with Joanne is, look at how the world is changing into the try before you buy. Do Netflix ask you for money before you've had a month of them? Does Zoom, we're on Zoom right now, does Zoom ask you for money without allowing you to try it for a month first?
No.
Would you buy a car that you haven't test driven? How many of you have ever bought a car that you didn't test drive?
I actually did.
Did you? How soon did you realise, fuck, I shouldn't have bought this?
No, I'm actually very happy with it. I'm
Okay,
just
well.
really busy in the business, and we leased a car and they turned up with it outside the office and I took it.
Okay.
Because all I cared about was getting from A to B.
Okay, but how often do you think that happens?
Oh, very rarely. That was just
Right.
madness.
I mean, it does take, right? I remember the funniest one I ever saw was a guy came in on a Thursday, bought an Audi A5. Is everybody familiar with what an Audi A5 is?
Yeah.
Two-door thing, right? And a few years ago, they brought out a four-door version of the two-door coupe. And for the first 6 months, they made it like the coupe with 2 seats in the back and 2 seats in the front. And a guy came in on a Thursday, bought this car that we... this car. Thank God I wasn't dealing with him. What an idiot was dealing with him. Wait till I'll tell you what happened. Friday afternoon, car was registered, taxed, everything, ready to go on the forecourt. Guy arrived in with his wife and family. Went to wave goodbye. 5 minutes later, he walked in with the baby chair under his arm going, where's the fucking 5th seat? This is what happens when you haven't got try before you buy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the mess that created with a car registered for a person and taxed and everything? You can't deregister it. It's just got another owner on the clock. Can you give him back the money? No. But it wasn't his fault. No, it wasn't. It was the salesperson's fault for not finding out how many children he had before he took him out for the drive. Does that make sense? Right? So this is what I'm saying. Give your customers number one, who remembers this from last week? The clarity.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Give them the clarity and let them try it so that they have the confidence. You with me?
Mhm.
Yep.
Or can you create that confidence even without having to try? Okay, like that.
Peter, it's been
Yeah.
a long time since I interrupted. I gave you a lot of time, so I'm just going to say something. It is kind of also Ireland Together, the whole ethos of showing your skills so that we
Yes.
can help each other afterwards. Like that
Yeah.
is kind of the whole thing here.
Yeah, so we're getting used to it, right?
See, I
But
was
think
like-
about it outside of here. Do you do it outside of here? I'm not going to give you any money, Louise. We're in this community.
I
Does
know.
that make sense?
Nobody does, Peter. It's okay.
But the point is, when we're outside of here, when we're standing in front of somebody with a checkbook, when it really, really matters, can you give them that confidence to hand you the check? And if you can't, what do you need to do to give them that confidence?
Hire you.
What?
Send them spam emails.
Just hire Peter and be like, he'll sort it out.
Yes,
There you
just
go,
send them
Peter.
more
You could be
emails.
business
Nothing wrong.
development for all
No,
of us.
fine.
Right?
Spam emails, that works. Spam the people with email.
But look, the point is,
Yeah.
right? Does all that make sense, right?
Yeah.
Can you now see what did we call it today? What was today called?
Attract and retain
Ingredients.
your customers.
By knowing what?
I
The
forgot that word.
ingredients.
Friends.
Ingredients.
Yeah.
There are how many ingredients?
4.
4. That's it.
I got it right.
Remember the what we called it, the Gordon Ramsay thing. What does he say? 5 main courses maximum.
Yeah.
Do it simply and do it really well. Okay? So in the same thing, it's your 4 ingredients. Shout them back out. Number 1.
Memorable.
Perception.
Perception,
Number 2.
affirmation,
Communication.
Number 2.
Affirmation.
Communication.
Number 3.
Affirmation.
Affirmation. Number 4.
Presentation.
Presentation.
Isn't it hilarious the way they all rhyme?
Ah, I like that.
Oh God, it took you till now. Right.
It's nifty.
It's about thinking it all through. What's
So
going to
how-
happen now is you're going to spend your weekend going perception, communication, affirmation, presentation. It's going to go round and round in your head, which is what I want. And in
It is now,
exactly
you
the
just told
same
them.
way, I want you to be able to put something together that makes your clients remember you.
Yeah, just a question. The memorable, meaningful, connected, and emotional.
Yes.
That's the seasoning?
Yes, that's what I
That's
thought.
easy.
I
Yes.
was a complete fluke that I got 4 right because I thought about those 4, not the other 4.
But that's the point, right? Okay? And like any of that, all those ingredients are there for a reason. You can't just say, I'll do a presentation. If you don't start with the first one, can you get to the end one?
No.
Properly? No, you can't. Okay? Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So have we learned something today?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Have we enjoyed ourselves today?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It wasn't as madcap as usual, but I hope I gave you something out of it, right?
That was really good.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
Awesome job.
Yeah.
Just on another note, Peter, I've bidded on an hour with you on the Network Ireland National Awards today.
Oh, did
So
you?
they had your 1 hour up for auction, and I've had my bid in, so hopefully I win.
Oh, very good.
Lisa, is this like a date for an hour, or is it a professional hour?
No,
on
it's
the
definitely
line?
professional hour, David.
There's the question. Which one is more valuable?
Not getting into this conversation.
So,
Yeah, we might live on that one, Lisa.
that's gas. So I wasn't sure. What I did was just to get a bit of publicity and get out there with other networks, because that's what we have to do, guys. We
Yeah.
can't just wander in off the street into Dublin Chamber anymore or to wherever. I just decided I'd put out a prize. So what did they do? They made it an auction, was it? They never
It's
came
an
back and told me.
auction. Yeah, it's an
Right.
auction. You have to bid.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
They never.
Can we
they
ask
never
you
actually
what your
said-
bid was?
The minimum bid was €100.
Oh, right. Okay.
So 102 euros, eh?
Well, it's on till 5 o'clock today, but anyway, hopefully I get in there.
Well, let's see.
We'll see.
Because that's not what I told them to do with it. It's fucking typical, isn't it? People just.
Yeah.
What did you tell them to do, Peter?
I basically said, so they have an award ceremony and then they have a thing for overall business of the year.
Yeah.
And I said I would give a €1,500 training voucher to the overall business of the year as part of the prize. Prize winner, okay? So what's in that? So what's in that auction is actually worth £1,500.
To be fair, though, the money is going to a really good charity. So.
Okay. Well, that's great. Okay,
Peter,
super. So
I'm reading back my pitch that I did at Rip It Up. And,
yes.
It's really, really crap compared to what I know now. So I just gone through all my notes and going, okay, I've come a long way. So thank you.
Joanne, have you done a pitch yet?
I've done several mini pitches, but I won last week. You just weren't here.
That's right.
You're such a liar.
That's very true.
Was
That's
that an
very true.
award-winning one, Joanne?
Award-winning.
It was award-winning. Indeed, it was. We had a three-way tie.
Wow.
Looking forward to that next week.
Yeah.
So listen,
Nothing better than one, Peter.
just to finish this off, right, in the way it needs to be, because that was all very educational and very, professional and very unlike me on a Friday, right?
Oh.
By the way, can I ask a quick question? Ava put up last week the little video about the word shit. Did anybody watch it?
Yeah.
No, I started.
That's very funny, guys. It's only 3 minutes long, but it's really, really, really worth the watch, right? But here's the